Hello again and welcome to another Morning Glory bolt action video. In today's episode, we shall be doing a review of the new French starter army. This is the latest box set from Warlord Games and their most recent starter army. It comes chock full of goodies to help you begin your French army. But the real question is it a good starter army? Is it a good place to start your soiree into the land of the baguette? And how does it stack up against the starter armies of other factions? Well, there's only one way to find out. Let's form a Maginot line, drink some fine French wine, and dive right into today's episode. Now, the first thing I need to say, or should I change that to admit, is I've always wanted a French army for bolt action. I know, as an Englishman, admitting that it is tantamount to heresy, to treason. You shame us, sir. You disgrace us, sir. I know. But there's just something about the French army in World War II that I can't explain. I just find them really appealing. Maybe it's the whole holding the line against frightful odds. Maybe it's the whole could I have changed history. Maybe it's the whole just liking an underdog story. But the idea of having a French army is something I've always toyed with and something that's always been on my bucket list for my bolt action collection. And so when Warlord Games announced this starter army, I was very excited and very interested. And I know there were a few other people in my gaming group who felt the same way. But with all of that said, now let's get into the box set itself. And we'll start off with the units that it contains. The bulk of the models will be French plastic infantry, and you get enough sprues to build 36 multi-pose plastic infantry. These are the latest kits from Warlord Games, and as a result, the models are finely detailed. Every single time Warlord releases a new kit, they up the quality and they just up the amount of detail and awesomeness on these models. Like, they really are getting to be very high quality, rivaling many other game companies out there. These models are going to come on sprues, and these are the classic Warlord sprues that, if you are familiar with their games, that you will know and love. Very ergonomically designed. The parts are very clear. I wouldn't be surprised if Warlord Games didn't even include building instructions for these French infantry, despite the fact they are a brand new kit, because it's very intuitive how the models go together. Now, speaking of the models, you do get lots and lots of parts and bits on these sprues, and you get enough to really cover all of your bases. Each one of these sprues is going to come with lots of rifles, so you can give every single man in the squad a rifle if you want to. It also comes with an SMG, which you can put on your sergeant, and it comes with an LMG as well. On top of this, you do get the kind of quirky VB launcher. This was a French rifle grenade that was kind of used as like a light mortar, and it's quite an interesting bit of kit. And in bolt action, it essentially means that every single one of your squads can be equipped with a slightly shorter ranged light mortar. On top of this, it's important to note that you get plenty of bits in here that you can use to build other units. You don't have to go for the regular French infantry sections. You get things like pistols and various like hands in pointing gestures, which allow you to build some dynamic officer poses as well. And this can be like your lieutenants, or you could also go for artillery observers. It's a very flexible plastic kit. But speaking of flexibility, what I think is the best bit about these sprues, about this new French infantry, is they have included loads and loads of head swaps. So you've got the classic Adrian helmet. You can build that to represent just normal infantrymen. You've also got bits that allow you to build them as fortress troops, people that were holding the line. You've also got the chasseurs, and you can build the colonial soldiers as well. In essence, it is a one-stop shop for all of your French infantry needs. You won't need to scrabble around finding other kits. You won't need to bother with any metal models. You can just get this infantry and get cracking. To be honest, the most appealing part about the French starter army is that new infantry. The rest of the models that we're going to look at are actually things that already existed and were already part of the range. Speaking of which, let's take a look at what else you get in this army. Next up, you've got a plastic Char B1 Biz medium tank. That's a good tank to include in this kit. It's a plastic one rather than a resin and metal kit, which might be a bit off-putting, especially for newer players. You have to sort of look at this whole thing from the perspective of someone who's getting into the game. It's a starter army. They don't want to be messing around with resin and plastic. They may never encountered those materials before. So going for the plastic tank was a good move on Warlord's part. And it's probably one of the more popular tanks for French commanders. I mean, it's a medium tank, which in the early war is actually a pretty big deal. A lot of other factions will be limited to light tanks, so having a medium tank off the bat is very, very tasty. It comes with a light anti-tank gun, which is more than enough to deal with Panzer 1s and Panzer 2s, and it's also got a light howitzer in the hull and 2 medium machine guns, one in the hull and one in the turret as a coax. That gives it a lot of firepower and flexibility, and frankly, I don't really see much reason to take many other French tanks. If you're the kind of person that wants to expand your collection and maybe want to try out some of the crazy Renault stuff and the Suma, I think it was, then you can go for it. But for a lot of people that might be getting the French as a bit of a side army, just having a fairly effective plastic medium tank is all you're really going to need until you get the itch to expand. We then get to the support units in this army, and most of these are going to be metal. I know that some people might be put off by metal, but don't be. It's a really, really easy material to work with. In fact, you'd be surprised, most of these models are going to be one piece. All of your officers, all your infantry on the medium mortar and your metal MGTV, it's all one piece. So it's very, very easy. You actually take your infantryman and you stick it on a base. Boom, done. Now, you get a metal HQ. This is going to give you 2 officers, one with a pistol, one with an SMG, and then you're going to get 2 other support members. These are going to be equipped with things like radios and stuff like that. Really, they're kind of there to be used as either observers, like your air observer or artillery observer, or you can use them to represent spotters for things like your medium mortar. With the French, you don't really get any benefits to taking an observer. It's not like you're the Brits or the Soviets. So I would say you'd be more than happy to use that guy on the radio as a spotter for the medium mortar. Speaking of which, next up you do get a medium mortar team. Fantastic inclusion. Medium mortars are a brilliant unit. Go to top tier, auto include in every single list. Most starter armies do include a medium mortar, but it's more of a case of if the army didn't have one, it would have been a huge negative. But by including it, it makes the starter army very attractive and also puts it on par with a lot of other starter sets out there as well. You then get a metal medium machine gun team. This is okay. A lot of players don't like MMGs in bot action, and I do understand why. They are sniper bait, and most people prefer to take a sniper over an MMG because they do cost the same. And whereas the MMG just gives you a bit of extra firepower, most vehicles that you have are going to come equipped with them. I mean, hell, the Char B is coming with 2 of them. So it's a bit of a unit that doesn't really add anything unique to the army and is very vulnerable to being one-shot by things like snipers. However, it is tradition that I think every bolt action starter army comes with an MMG, and so I'm actually quite happy to see it there because traditions must be upheld. Finally, we get a metal 25mm anti-tank gun, and this is a light anti-tank gun. This is the only unit in the starter set which has been scratching my head a little bit. Light anti-tank guns are not great. They very much lose potency going into the later war. Now, technically, France wasn't really doing a lot in the later war. Not until the really late war when they came back and retook France. And even then, a lot of the time, they were equipped with American equipment. But the problem with the light anti-tank gun is that unless you're restricting yourself to the time appropriate to the fall of France, it's not going to be enough punch. Really, what would have been better here would be a medium anti-tank gun. You've already got a light AT on the Shah B1. You don't really need two. It would have been better to have a more powerful weapon here. Or a better choice would have been to go for an artillery piece. Now, this brings me on to a small problem that I have with the starter army. Before I say anything else, I just want to clarify something. I do think this is a good starter set. I do recommend it. If you were thinking of getting into the French, this is a good place to start. You'll get plenty of infantry, you'll get a plastic tank, and you'll get officers, and you'll get medium mortars, and the MMG is decent. Like, you get a lot to like about this starter army. And taking it a step further, it's very comparable to a lot of other starter sets out there that are at the same price point. This costs £98. That puts it online with things like the Africa Corps starter army, and so that also comes with a tank, that also comes with 36 infantry, that also comes with the machine gun team and the medium mortar. The main difference being that the Africa Corps starter set, I don't believe, comes with the metal HQ, so you have to use some of your plastic infantry to make those HQ models. But it does come with a Flak 88, which is a very potent anti-tank and artillery piece combined. But comparing the French starter army to that one, same price, same level, so it's good. But the main issue I have with the French starter army is it doesn't overly lean into the French army rules. You see, the main French traits are hastily conscripted reserves and their artillery doctrine. Now, the hasty reserves allows you to get a free unit of French infantry, but you have to take 3 other inexperienced squads before you can get that free conscript squad. It's a bit like the Soviet one, except for the Soviets always get a free 10-man unit, whereas the French have got to take some other guys before they unlock it. This means that you're kind of encouraged as the French to go maybe more towards a horde army, even if it's not the most effective one, and you can build an elite French force, but it feels like if you want to take advantage of your army rules, you should be taking lots and lots of inexperienced troops. But you only get 36 plastic infantry. And if you take like 3 5-man inexperienced squads and then get the 4th 5-man inexperienced squad free, that's going to take up 20 of your infantry. That's only going to leave you 16 infantry left to build some actually effective units. And those little 5-man squads of inexperience are going to get brushed aside in a heartbeat. They're just going to die because they're 5-man squads of inex infantry. They're just going to die on 3s. A burst of machine gun fire will probably knock them out. So maybe it would have been nice to see a bit more infantry included in the set, so you could get some bigger, more effective conscript units and have maybe a few infantry left over to get some elite troops as well. Speaking of free units though, the French main rule is their artillery doctrine, and this gives them straight up a free artillery piece. This can be either a anti-tank gun or it could be an artillery piece or howitzer. Most people, when they're running France, take two howitzers, either 2 light or 2 medium howitzers, and it makes for a really, really effective bombardment. Not a lot of people like anti-tank guns at the best of times. Not a lot of people like them in the French army, and most people wouldn't bother with a light anti-tank gun in majority of circumstances. So the unit that's really out of place there is the is the 25mm AT. It would have been better to see the light artillery piece there. You wouldn't need to include 2. Hell, it would be lovely if the starter set included all the infantry you needed and 2 artillery pieces. But I think we have to understand that France is a rather niche army. And I'm sure the smart people at Warlord Games have had a good think about this. And they've probably gone, look, if we make this starter set like 120 quid, like some of the bigger Soviet ones, sure, we could cram in all the infantry, and sure, we could put the 2 artillery pieces in there. But then they're going to have to charge a lot more for it. And like I said, this is a niche army. This is going to be, I wouldn't even say like a second army for most people. This will be a 3rd or 4th army. Most people are going to go through the factions that can be taking part in the whole war, that are really expansive, like the Germans and the British and the Americans. France is one of those things that maybe you get when you're bored of doing the mainstream stuff and you want to go a little bit more different. So if they did have the starter set and it was coming in at 116 or more pounds, that might put a lot of people off. The people might be like, you know what, I'm not going to spend that much on a starter army for a faction that is really kind of a side project more than anything else. If I could snap my fingers and magically change the starter army, this is what I would do. I'd bring it more in line with the British 8th Army one. I'd keep things like the medium mortar and the medium machine gun. They're classic starter army things, and it wouldn't feel right if they weren't included. I'd have the 36 plastic infantry, but I wouldn't worry so much about the metal infantry. I actually, in a crazy sort of way, wouldn't worry so much about the Sharby tank. I mean, having that in there would be great, but if I have to make a sacrifice, that has to go. And instead, what I would do is go for the light anti-tank gun. Yes, I'd leave that in there, and I'd also put in a light or medium howitzer. Now, the reason I would go for that is because it allows Warlord to put those models in that are the classics, like the medium machine gun, but it also points you in the right direction. It's like, look at this quirky army that can take 2 artillery pieces. We've given you 1 anti-tank gun and 1 howitzer, so you can decide which one you prefer. And it lets people get a taste for how the French are going to operate. And then it also encourages them to expand, because they're going to go, oh, well, I really want to try out that hastily conscripted reserves rule. I'll buy an extra box of plastic French infantry. The kit's new and detailed. It's fantastic. That's an easy sell. And then people can try out the different anti-tank and howitzer pieces, and they can go, oh, well, actually, in my sort of local scene, my local meta, I need more anti-tanks. So you know what? I'm going to go out and buy an extra anti-tank gun. Or someone might go, oh, well, I actually really enjoy using the howitzer. I'll go out and buy myself an extra howitzer. It allows people to try out the army, get a feel for it, and gives them a couple of natural expansion points. But like I said, this is a great starter army. It comes with everything you need to try out the different aspects of the game. You've got officers, you've got HE, you've got anti-tank, and you've got tanks as well. You could very much expand from the starter army in a similar way to how I just described. You could get an extra box of infantry, you could get yourself an extra howitzer, and then you would start being able to really get a feel for how the French want to operate in the early war with those masses of conscripts and those overwhelming support teams as well. I think that the French starter set is a good one to begin your journey with the army. There are a couple of missed opportunities, but overall I can recommend it. In comparison to some other starter sets, I'd probably rank it as a mid-tier one. A 7 out of 10. There's no bad units in this army, but you are definitely going to want to expand and get other bits for your force. But of course, all of this is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Are you someone who has picked this up? Did you enjoy it? Are you someone who's interested in bolt action and specifically the French? Let us know your thoughts on the starter army. Has it persuaded you to take a look at the game? If you've enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to never miss an episode. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian Glory Hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing. Truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full time without the incredible and generous support of my members. So thank you guys so much. And last, but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the Call of Duty. So a massive thank you to Vert, Mad Larkin, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, August Vardy, and the Tommies. Thank you guys. Your incredible support makes a huge difference, and it is a big part of how I'm able to do Mordian Glory full time. But that's all for now. Thank you for watching, and of course, as always, I'll see you guys next time.